From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBIC, the PrimeTime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same, man. And hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. And pretty much this is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles. And you guys already know lots to dig into today. We got two new head coach hires as well. Absolutely tremendous today. Where you have that news was done yesterday afternoon, but all in all, though, you have a brand new coach for the Indianapolis Colts. Everybody was waiting for this to be, official. A lot of us had this idea Eric Bieniemy probably was going to be the head coach, but that did not work out. They decided to get Shane Steichen to be the next head coach. This is a surprise move, in my opinion. You got a guy who's fresh off of losing the Super Bowl as an OC. He did a great job calling that game as well, too. But the thing is, though, at the end of the day, I still think that Stitchen just wasn't ready to be a head coach at this point. But I think he just wowed them in his actual interview to become the head coach of the team. I'm looking at his resume, and it seems like that he was able to he's a guy that played for El Dorado High School out in California. He played with Austin Collie as well, too, former Indianapolis coach. That was his wide receiver. He was the quarterback. He actually played over at UNLV as well, too. He threw for under 3,000 yards at UNLV and threw for 22 touchdowns. And that's where he started his coaching career as well, too, as a graduate assistant, and then later moved on to being their quarterbacks coach. He then got a job over at Louisville as an offensive assistant, and then made the jump to the NFL. Now, this is where he's been at in the NFL. He started off with the Chargers, and the coach there at the time was Norv Turner, and he actually was a defensive guy that was there with them. He was there with Rich Bisaccia as well, too. Steve Wilkes, the now 49, the former Panthers coach and the former Cardinals coach. Yeah, Pagano, Chuck's brother, as there with him as well too. Then he moved on to the Browns after 2 seasons with the Chargers in that limited role as a defensive assistant, more like learning on the job type situation, carrying bags and stuff, and putting in a couple X's and O's. But then he was able to become the offensive quality control coach, working with Joe Cullen, who's now with the Chiefs and everything, and Scott Turner, son of Nora Turner, who's now the pass game coordinator for the Raiders. He came back to the Chargers with Frank Reich, who was at the time their offensive coordinator, and Frank Reich, or their quarterbacks coach. Mike Nolan was there as well, too, as a defensive coordinator. He was there as their offensive quality control coach. And then he got a promotion under Anthony Lynn, Ken Wisenhunt's regime, and they were able to and Gus Bradley as well, too, was a part of this group. These guys were able to put it all together and actually work together for 5 seasons after that. The Chargers, he was the quarterbacks coach and the offensive coordinator. He then gets a promotion and goes to the Eagles with his good friend Nick Sirianni, who was also the former coach, offensive coordinator, and the two worked together with the Chargers as well too. So him and Sirianni, once he got his head job over with the Eagles, he selected his good friend to come over and be his offensive coordinator, and that's where we're at right now. Is to where you have a guy in Stetchen who just has been around a lot of good group. He just the last 3 quarterbacks he has had under his wing, Phillip Rivers, also Justin Herbert, and just recently Jalen Hurts, the first ever Super Bowl MVP that did not win the MVP, because literally when I just keep looking at the stats, the guy should have won MVP. He helped Miles Sanders get to his best season as a running back in the NFL. A.J. Brown had a career year this year, and Devonta Smith was really good as well too. So you had a lot of things working for them in their favor, and they were top 5 in many of the important categories when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. So Steichen is, when you look at him on paper, it's a great hire. And when you look at it in hindsight, you can kind of tell that the Colts are experimenting a little bit, and they're going kind of cheap on the head coach as well too. You know what I mean? They're not trying to overpay for a head coach. They're trying to figure out who they can bring in here, who's going to be able to get along with the analyticals people. You know what I mean? So because this is all analyticals to me. So pretty much there it is. The coach name Shane Steichen as their head coach. I think that this job should have went to Eric Bieniemy. I think that he has more street credibility. They just got done winning the second Super Bowl in the last 4 seasons, and the third Super Bowl they've been to in the last 4 seasons. So I think that they didn't get this one right. But what do you expect? It's the Colts. They hired Jeff Saturday right out of the ESPN booth. So I truly do feel like bringing this coach in, there might not be that much of a shakeup, but I think that everybody can go ahead and sign off that there's not going to be any veteran quarterback coming in. I know Steichen wants to get started with the brand new, fresh quarterback, rookie coach. It all kind of makes sense. I think Matt Ryan will be able to stick around as a stopgap mentor type situation for whomever they bring in. I think right now CJ Stroud probably is the best bet for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward, but they may invest in Will Levis as well too. And I'm hearing that Anthony Richardson's getting a lot of looks by them as well too. So they got 3 options, because I think Bryce Young's the first quarterback off the board, but we'll talk about that more in a moment when we do compare Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. So let me go ahead and move forward to our next topic at hand, which is going to be about the new head coach of the Cardinals, which is going to be his partner in crime on the other side, Johnathon Gannon, who just became the new HC for the new head coach for the Cardinals, who moved off of Cliff Kingsbury. I was very on the money about that as well too. I told folks that Cliff Kingsbury was going to not be their head coach much longer. It wound up being very true, that he wasn't going to be with this team much longer, because it was a make or break season regardless of anything. He did get an extension, but we all know that there was a lot of flaws in this guy's in his game. It's just that simple. So pretty much he winds up being fired. They bring in a coach that has a little bit more credibility in the NFL, and Johnathon Gannon. Johnathon Gannon is only 40 years old as well too, but he's once again a part of a good, another hire by the Cardinals, where they're hiring a first-year head coach. The team seems to not be able to get anybody who has real coaching experience in this league, where they already led a team. They keep having to play the experiment game. Now, he was with Sirianni the last 2 years. Sirianni actually took him from Indianapolis when they were with Frank Reich, and before that, for 4 seasons, he was with the Minnesota Vikings under Mike Zimmer. Then he worked with Mike Munchak for 2 years with the Titans, and then he was with Bobby Petrino back in 2007. So, he for a while was a college scout, in 2009, and then he was a scout for the St. Louis Rams as well too. So he's a little bit different of a head coach coming into this, because he's actually seen all facets of the game, where you were a scout and a coach and a recruiter as well too. So you do understand how to somewhat put it together. He is from Cleveland, Ohio as well too. St. Ignatius alumni, won a state title in basketball as a point guard, was the district champion as a hurler and in track, and was also a Division I wide receiver and defensive back. So he has it, you know what I mean? And the thing about Gannon was a top flight high school player that actually wound up at Louisville, but he got hurt, injuring his hip in his freshman year. So he was able to become a coach, served as a student assistant for 3 seasons. Then he was a graduate assistant in 2006 for Petrino. Petrino then goes and takes him to the NFL with him as, as pretty much like an intern type situation. But this guy it's a lot to muster here with Gannon. I think Gannon is a guy that caught a lot of us by surprise, but he had some interviews before. So I think him actually getting this job over Aaron Glenn and Brian Callahan was something, because Brian Callahan is a guy who has credibility, and Aaron Glenn was a player in the NFL. So, I think that they brought in both these coaches technically really just got these jobs because Philadelphia had such a great season, and they are young blood coaches. They're young coaches that can adapt to exactly what these teams want to do. And I think the Cardinals just wanted to just get a coach in so they could start their new program. You know what I mean? I think that it was either going to be Gannon or Bieniemy. And I think that Bieniemy was probably going to cost a little bit more than Gannon. And so once again, I feel like this move was made in the sense that they're playing it kind of cheap, and they're just telling themselves that this can be enough, that this coach is going to have to prove to us he probably has a 2-year window to succeed. They're not going to get rid of him after a year, but they're going to give him about a 2-year window to try to succeed with Kyler Murray, because he's not going to have him right away. But I think Gannon brings a discipline to him, and I think out of the 2 coaches that got hired, I think Gannon will probably be the more successful of the group, because the Colts seem like it's a tough task, because the Colts do have a team intact, and so you really can't mess that thing up. But it's not. But the biggest problem is you don't have a quarterback. With Gannon's situation is he has a quarterback that they've invested money into. He also has an offense in place that it can put some points on the board. Their thing is getting the defense back into a very feasible state. You know what I mean? The defense was very inconsistent last year. I think that they just lacked a lot of discipline, and I think that that's what they wanted to do here by bringing in Jonathan Gannon, is bringing in a coach that brings discipline to the table. And I know that the Cardinals have never really cared about getting big splash hires as the head coach. I can vaguely remember like one coach that they hired that was a big name, and that was Dennis Green. And that was because they were just moving into a brand new stadium at the time as well, too. So there's just a lot of things that came together fairly quickly right after the Super Bowl, and both these coaches were able to get jobs. They were interviewing for these jobs, but it's almost like they got their promotion simply because they both had such outstanding their units had such outstanding performances, but their units have been good all season. I wouldn't say that these guys deserve to be head coaches. I would have tried to at least take one of the guys from the chief staff, but they took the 2 guys from the team that lost. But the Eagles were that dominant and that good to where these head coaches were going to be rewarded. They were either going to get a big bonus as staff members of the Philadelphia Eagles, or get themselves a new job as a head coach. Or it's that simple. So pretty much at the end of the day, these guys have a lot to prove, but they were picked up by 2 teams that are still under the radar, and nobody's asking them to do too much, because you got one team that's drafting in the 3rd spot of the draft, and you got another team that's drafting in the 4th spot of the draft. So pretty much you got 2 teams that are in the top 5 of the draft. And I know what Arizona's looking at. They're looking at more of an offensive lineman, best player on the board type situation. So they'll probably be molding a trade. And then you have the Colts, who are literally looking for the quarterback of the future. Will they be able to make that right move? We'll go ahead and we'll figure it out. But let's go ahead and talk about the 2 top quarterbacks in the draft, being CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Who has the best upside between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud? Now, when you put the stats together and everything like that, the stats really do favor CJ Stroud. And when you look at who played with the most NFL-ready guys on the offensive side of the ball, you would say that it was Bryce Young who played with those guys. But both of them had their fair share of receivers that probably all will make it to the NFL. But I would think that the Ohio State guys were a little bit better. I would say the running game was a little bit better for Alabama. And both these guys are really kind of 1A and 1B. Both for Southern California quarterbacks, as everybody knows. That CJ played for Centennial out in Corona, a powerhouse, and then the School of Schools in Southern California, Modern Day, which produced 2 other Heismans as well too, and Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart. So you got 2 guys here that really do present a very good future for whoever selects them. Now, Bryce Young going to the Houston Texans is a very strong move because you have a guy coming from Alabama. You already have the Southern situation going down there, and he does have a feel on how things are. And then you get a coach in D'Amico Ryans, black head coach as well too. And so there's a lot to sell here. So it's almost like you're getting a replacement for Deshaun. And it's almost, you looking at him, it's like you're thinking it is Deshaun because the way that he goes about the game and the way that he plays the game. But all in all, if I'm the general manager, I don't go for the sparkly object in front of me in Bryce Young. Bryce Young was very fortunate to play for Alabama. He was a great player, but I don't know if he would have been doing the same thing on Mississippi State or Ole Miss. Even though he does have the composure that it takes to be the number 1 pick in the draft. He is kind of limited, though, when it comes to his height and when it comes to just being big throws. I didn't see him make a lot of big throws at Alabama. So I think that all in all, he's a very accurate passer, a very smart player, but CJ Stroud just checks off all the squares. He just checks off all the boxes, in my opinion. He throws well on the run. He doesn't need to run to really. He doesn't need to run. Running is not his first option at all. But when he does run, he's pretty good at it. Now, he has a tendency to get the ball out a little bit too quickly sometimes, but that's actually pretty good at the next level. I think that he's very good at throwing guys open as well, but there was a lot of miscommunication with these Ohio State guys, and it seemed like he was putting it more on them than himself. That's something that he's going to have to correct in the NFL as well, too, in my opinion. So I think that when you look at everything at the end of the day, CJ Stroud looks like he could be the better fit in Houston because of his big game ability. I know that Bryce has big game ability as well, too, but it seems like CJ was always ready for the moment, ready for the big game, and you were very confident in him when you got to this game. Bryce, on the other hand, you were very confident in him, but there were a lot of games where he was being doubted way too much in those games, and he had to prove how good he really was. CJ Stroud really disappointed people when he didn't have a big game. He's a guy that can get the ball to receivers in spots that only a few can do, and that's usually sells to the NFL very, very well. And I just think that these are the 2 best quarterbacks coming into the draft, so you're not really losing with either one of them. But I truly do think that if Bryce Young, I think, is more wanted by the Colts. The Texans are still figuring it out. They might have all the quarterbacks on the table as an option, but I would really feel that CJ Stroud going in with D'Amico would be a little bit better because the thing is, D'Amico is a defensive coach, and I think that CJ Stroud has proven to us that he's a very tough-minded guy, and I think that they match very well. I think that if Bryce goes in, they'll figure out a way to say, okay, Bryce, we'll have to bring the backup. We're going to let you come in, flow in to being our starting quarterback. I think that fits better with Indianapolis because they already have Matt Ryan there who can be the stopgap tutor quarterback, and they can move forward with Bryce by the time you get to week 3 or 4. But CJ Stroud, I feel, is a first-day starter, and by him going to the Texans, that makes a whole lot of sense. But I truly don't like him and the Colts as a fit. I really don't. I think that it would work out a lot better for CJ if he goes a little bit later in the top 10 to the Raiders at number 7. So that's what I'm saying. If you got Bryce Young going number 2 to the Texans, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders jump all the way to the 3 spot, knowing that they have to give up some assets for it, but they'll do it. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We'll have more to come here in the next 60 days. So you guys just be on the lookout, and I'll be following all the draft news that we need to follow. So let's go ahead and move forward to our next topic in hand, and that's going to be Xavier and Marquette. This is the game, the CBB game of the day. You got number 16, Xavier, 19-6 at Marquette. Number 11, 20-6 right now. Marquette is a 5.5-point favorite coming into this game as well, too. They've actually jumped to a 6. Marquette is playing some of the most underrated basketball in the country right now. They're not getting talked about enough. I feel like this team has been playing out of their absolute minds lately, and they're just not getting enough credit. This team has actually won their last 6 out of 8 games as well, too. You know, they're not losing a lot. You know, it seems like they go on a 5-game winning streak, then they'll take a L. Then another 5-game winning streak, then they'll take a L. And that's pretty much been their whole season. They had more trouble in the first half of the year when they were playing non-conference games. But we should have all knew how real Marquette was when they beat Baylor by 26 points. Like, Baylor was the number 6 team in the nation at that time, and they absolutely crushed them. So, you know, I'm looking at this, how things go. They swept UConn this year. Surprise, surprise. And UConn was in a top spot, was ranked both times this happened. You know what I mean? They were number 6, then they were number 21. And, you know, you look at this and you say to yourself, this team has beat 3 ranked teams this year. So, you know, that is so good for this team moving forward. They've only lost 1 game against ranked teams. And that was against Xavier. And Xavier's and that was at Xavier, where it's really tough to win at. So Xavier comes into this game tonight with the look of a team that's trying to, you know, get that lead in the Big East. They're 11-3 right now. Marquette's 12-3. They're the same amount of losses, but you know, Xavier is a game behind because they have 19 wins and Marquette has 20. So when you look at this situation, you tell yourself you got 2 teams that are playing their absolute best in conference play right now. And this is the game right here. This is the game that kind of determines who's going to be the number 1 seed in the Big East this year. So, you know, Marquette, Xavier, you didn't expect these 2 teams to be on top. Providence is right behind them after a very hard-fought win yesterday against Creighton. Creighton has found themselves back in the mix after really suffering some bad losses here in the early part of the season, but conference play has put them back intact. You know, you look at Connecticut, all their losses for this season have came in conference play. They're not playing that great in conference, but that's not going to hinder them from making the tournament this year. They're still the number 20 team in the nation. So Big East is a real race right now, probably the most unpredictable of all the tournaments coming up this year, which will keep these teams very battle-tested and very dangerous when you come into the tournament. So when you look at this one tonight, I really truly do like Xavier to go ahead and cover the +6 now that they have going in this game. And I think that the +6 will be an absolute gem for you tonight. And this is a possible upset tonight with the money line standing at +210. I would not hesitate to bet that either tonight because you're getting nothing but value on who I feel is the better team coming into the game because Marquette is really good. They play really well at home, but this is a pressure game. And I think Xavier has handled the pressure much better than anybody else in the Big East this year when it comes to these Big East games. So there it is. There it is. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. And when I get back, we're going to jump into the State of the Lakers NBA Wednesday night. And then we have Talking Tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
What's up, world? We are back with the PrimeTime Angles, the premier sports betting show with your host, the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. We 3 years strong on StreamYard with this, but we're also about 5 years strong with the show. So, I just want to tell everybody who's listened to the show since about 2018, thank you very much for doing that as well, too. This was the show that came after my original show, Cap Cat. So if you've been with me since 2015 with Cap Cats, it's been a nice little 8-year run, man. So we just keep continuing to try to do things as big as possible. One of my oldest topics is state of the Lakers. We was even talking about the Lakers when they were one of the worst teams in the NBA, but now, the Lakers are back to being popular because they have LeBron James. But, all in all, there's trouble in La La Land. From what they're saying right now is there's a little bit of LeBron talking through the media right now, trying to get guys motivated to be much better. There's nothing really wrong with that. But at the same time, though, there's the finger pointing goes everywhere. AD's not being accountable, understood. Westbrook was being kind of a loose cannon, understood. LeBron not playing defense and nobody talking about it, that's a problem. And I think that LeBron needs to be more accountable on that end of the ball because he's cost the Lakers several games this season by not playing any defense. So, we're using the old card and we're using he has a bad foot card. And it's just like, well, why do you guys keep pushing LeBron to limits that he might not be able to get to anymore? And that's my biggest thing. I think that, honestly, now we're starting to push the whole he has to play with Bronny situation. Bronny is not a one-and-done player coming out of college next year. I don't think that he would be smart to go to the G League because he wouldn't be one of the more effective players in the G League next year if he played for the G League Unite. But that's a different story for a different day. So pretty much with this, I say that LeBron has to start being a better leader. He shouldn't be talking to the team through the media. That's absolutely stupid. I think that he needs to talk to the team face to face. And if he does that, they'll probably be motivated to step their game up because the Lakers know that they're not far apart. They're not far from a playoff spot. They're not far at all from a playoff spot. But what they need to do is they need to consistently win. As I said before, the Lakers are already in bad shape right now. They're 2-4 for this month. They really can't afford to keep losing games. They got 4 games left to go this month. Hopefully they can go ahead and sweep out these games this month so they can finish with another winning record and put themselves in position to get to the 6th spot because the Lakers right now are 4.5 games out, okay? 4.5 games out from the 6th seed. They're 5 games out from the 5 seed, and they are 5.5 from the 4 and 6.5 from the actual 3 seed. So they're not really that far behind, but their actual gettable spot is the 6th spot. Okay. And as I keep saying, I think that one of these teams in the top 6 is going to fall out of this group and become a play-in team. But the Lakers have to get it together because they're still 2 games behind the 11 and the 12. And at one point, they were all tied up. Now, the Lakers know that being 2.5 games back is not a good look at all. So tonight is a must-win situation. Like, once again, I said that the other night that it's a must-win situation. Tonight is a really must-win situation. If the Lakers want to just get into the mix, they want to finish this up. They want to finish up very well. They want to finish up right because they're in the All-Star. It's about to be the All-Star break. The Lakers are going to get literally a whole week off. And they want to take advantage of that by winning games before they get into that All-Star break so they can have some confidence. Now, when I'm looking at the Lakers' numbers, you got the Pelicans coming into this game. They're split on the season, 1-1. The Lakers won the first game. The Pelicans won the next game. This time around, the Lakers got a good win at home last time they played each other. Now, Pelicans coming here 4-2 in the month of February. They're 10-18 straight up on the road. They're 19-14 straight up first to Western Conference. And then against the spread on the road, they're 11-16-1. And versus the Western Conference, they're 17-15-1 against the spread. And then when it comes down to the over-under in 58 games, they've went ahead and actually went over in 32 of them. Like I said prior, the Lakers are 2-4 this month, coming fresh off of a loss as well, too. And we all know that the Lakers had lost 3 in a row, but they cleaned that up. And then they got lost again. So the Lakers right now 13-14 at home for the season. They're 13-20 at versus the West. And then against the spread, they're 26-31 at home. And they're 13-19-1 against the spread versus the West. Now, when it comes down to the over-under, in the 58 games the Lakers have played this season, they've actually went over in 31 of those games. What I look at tonight is the spread says has the Lakers favorable tonight. I think that AD steps it up big against his former team tonight, and he has himself a night because he's being called out by the media now. He's being called out by LeBron. I think that he's in store for a 30-point night tonight and proving to everybody that he's not the problem. So I truly do feel like the Lakers have to win this game tonight. They really, truly do. It's not a dire situation, but to stay in the mix, I would say this. It'd be great to see these guys win the last 4 games of the month because they would be able to finish up the month 30-32. That should put them right in the driver's seat to be exactly where they need to be to get into the play-in spot. But the Lakers are really vying for that 6th seed, so they got to start winning now. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out, and let's move forward to our actual NBA games tonight, and we got a good one here. First up is going to be the Bulls at the Pacers. This is Bulls coming in here 26-31. Pacers are 25-34. The Bulls are actually a 2-point favorite tonight as well, too, over under a 231.5. And when you look at this game, you have 2 teams that are going in different directions right now. They're both in the playoff race, but they're going in different directions because Indiana's really struggling and Chicago is kind of just middling right now. Both these teams are sitting on the outside looking in. You have a Chicago team that's the 11 seed. You have Indiana, who's the 12 seed. Indiana comes in. Bulls coming here 3-4 in the month of February. They've lost their 4 in a row as well, too. On the road, straight up this year, they're 9-19. Versus the Central, they're 5-5 straight up. Against the spread on the road, they're 12-15-1. And against the spread versus the Central Division, they're 5-4-1. Now, in 57 games this year, they've went over and they went under in 33 of them. Pacers coming to this one, losers of their last 5, and they're 1-6 in the month of February. Also, they're 17-14 straight up at home. They're 3-5 straight up versus the Central, 18-13 against the spread at home, and then they're 4-4 versus the Central against the spread. Now in their 60 games this year, they've actually went under 31 times. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But this should be another really, really fun game. And actually in their 59, I said 60 or 59 games, they've went under 31 times. So when I look at this one tonight, I like the under again, the under 231.5. I think that's very hittable, very strikeable, because this is a central game, and these games always get really, really nasty and really, really physical. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so we have ourselves a game that's really like a seller versus seller, bad on bad tonight. But I just wanted to feature this game because I'm always featuring top matchups and all that good stuff. And this is where we make our money at, in these low tier matchups like the Spurs and the Hornets. And I say this because I'm actually playing you see that 7.5 tonight? Why would the Hornets be a 7.5 point favorite at any time? I don't care what their records are. You know what I mean? They're 14. They have 16 wins. The Spurs have 14 wins. What makes them a 7.5 point favorite tonight? Nothing. I don't think that. I think that we're tripping here. But this is the reason why they have it set up like this, because they know a lot of action is going to go towards Charlotte. Reason being is because the Spurs are 0-7 this month and are 0-7. They haven't won a game this month. Then they're only 5-23 on the road straight up as well too. But versus the Eastern Conference, they have a really good record, 9-14. Yeah, it's a losing record, but for a team that only has 14 wins and literally 60% of those wins come against the Eastern Conference, that gives you a lot of confidence going into this game tonight. Now, on the road against the spread, they're 10-18, but versus the Eastern Conference, another note that favors the Spurs, they're 12-11 against the spread. So they have a winning record versus the East when it comes to the spread. Now, when it comes down to the over and under, we all know that this team gives up a lot of points. They've had 58 games this year, and they've went over in 33 of them. Now, you have the Hornets, who dropped their first 6 games of the month and just won recently. They are now 1-6 in the month of February. At home, straight up, they're 8-18. Versus the Western Conference, in 21 games, they're 7-14. Now, against the spread at home, they're 9-17. And versus the West against the spread, they're 9-11-1. Now, 59 games, they've went under 30 times. So when I look at this one, I say to myself, what they're doing is they're trying to get you to really bet the Spurs on the spread, because they know that if they made this a pick 'em, everybody's taking the Hornets. So they don't want to one-sided to the Hornets, the home team. But they know that this is a tricky game as well, too. And if you're a smart bettor, this gives you all the opportunity to actually go into a game and really play it big, play it for real. And this is actually a plus 175. That's what cracks me up about this one, is that this is a 175, but it's a -6. It's a plus 7.5. You don't usually get a plus 175 on this. You know what I mean? But that's the number, plus 175. And this actual spread has been bet down to plus 5.5. So it makes sense. So that means that the early money was going in on the Hornets. Now the late money is going in on the Spurs, and they're spinning on the money line. So I'm going to go with the numbers tonight, and I'm taking the Spurs as my dog of the day with plus a 175. So let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. Spurs at the Hornets, and this should be a good one. That's a high over-under as well, too, 244.5. They had it at 240 the other night. They absolutely hit that bad boy, too. It was wound up being 282 points scored combined. So, yeah, crazy. All right, so we have pretty much the game of the night in the Eastern Conference. You have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are very good against the East right now. They have a really, really good record. And then you have the 76ers, a team that's kind of playing the back fiddle to the Bucks and the Celtics, but they are a team that you still need to watch out for, because they have the experience, they have the coach, and they can shock the system. Let's just keep it real. All right, so I'm looking at this right now, and from what I can see in my notes, you have a Cavs team that's absolutely rocking and rolling this month. They're 7-0 in the month of February, but on the road, they have their woes. They're 13-16 straight up on the road, but against the Eastern Conference, they have the best record from the East against the East, and it's 22-10 straight up versus the Eastern Conference. So that's what works into their favor. That's why there's somewhat of a not that big of a dog tonight. They're only a +1.5 and -105 on the spread. All right. And then against the spread, they're 12-15-2 on the road. And versus the East against the spread, they're 18-11-3. Now, in 60 games this year, they've went under 33 times. 76ers coming to this one 5-2 in the month of February, 22-8 straight up at home, 21-13 straight up versus the Eastern Conference. Against the spread at home, they're 19-10-1. Against the spread versus the East, they're 17-16-1. And then in their 56 games, they've went over in 32 of them. So this one tonight, I really feel like it's going to take shape in a really good form. You know what I mean? It's going to be an ESPN game tonight. I know a lot of people are going to be into it. A lot of people are going to get really excited about this game tonight as well, too. And so, you might be possibly looking at a second round playoff situation. So I know there's a lot of hype going into this game tonight, and it's a 216.5 point spread. I'm over under. I think this is very gettable. Both the Sixers score a lot of points at home. The Cavaliers tend to step it up on the road, scoring points as well, even though I know they play great defense, but I still think what happens here is that they'll figure out a way to, go over in this game. 216.5 is too low of a number for me to not take it on an over bet with these two teams. So let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, we have ourselves the Jazz and the Grizzlies, a West Coast matchup. And then we have the Jazz coming in here 29-30. You have the Grizzlies 34-22. The Grizzlies are an 8.5 point favorite tonight as well, too, coming into the game over under 239.5. You have the Jazz 3-4 in the month of February. They've won their last 2 out of 3. They're 11-18 straight up on the road. They're 19-17 straight up first to Western Conference. And then against the spread on the road, they're 16-12-1. And then when it comes down to playing the West against the spread, they're 22-14. Now, the over-under in 59 games, they've went over in 33 of them. Grizzlies coming to this one 2-4 in the month of February, but their struggles have been really, really documented over here the last 3 weeks or so. This team has actually lost their last 9 out of 10, 9 out of 12 games. So they could have been like running away with the West right now, but they're just staying pat at the moment, and they're almost very close to getting caught by Sacramento. So they need to start picking it up. But one thing that's working in the Grizzlies' favor tonight, they're 23-5 at home, the best record in the NBA. Also, they're 16-6 versus the West straight up as well. At home, though, against the spread, they're 17-10-1. And versus the West, not that great. 11-20-1 against the spread. So they win games, but they don't cover games versus the Western Conference. Now, when it comes down to the over-under and their 55 games this year, they've actually 56 actually. They've actually went under in 29 of these games. So there it is. There it is. Tonight, I like the Jazz to cover. I like the +10 on the Jazz. I think that's a good number. It should be some money for us tonight. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But I do like the +10 tonight. Grizzlies will be an over bet. They'll see them as a team that can dominate and try to win this game by 20, all that good stuff. But they're going to get caught slipping tonight. I think that they beat the Jazz, but they don't beat them by 10. So I think what happens here, they win by 8 or less. And that's it, and that's all. So we move forward. Let's go ahead and talk about the Mavericks and the Nuggets. This is another really good game tonight. You have the Nuggets, who are the best team in the Western Conference, while you have the Mavs that are the number 6 seed at this moment, and they're kind of going through the motions as we speak. But, they're playing good basketball as well, too. When I look at my notes, the Mavs are 4-3 in the month of February, but they actually have not won since adding Kyrie, so they're 0-2 in that regard. So pretty much what I'm saying is they were playing better basketball before Kyrie got there. 12-18, but it's only been a few games. 12-18 against the spread straight up on the road. They're also 23-15 straight up versus the Western Conference, and then against the spread against the West. They're 17, 20, and 1, and they're also 12 and 18 against the spread on the road. So they have the same identical to their straight up road record is their against the spread record as well. Now, when it comes down to their 59 games this year, they've actually went over in 33 of them. Nuggets coming to this one 5-2 in the month of February. Winners of their last 3 out of 4. Also, they are 26-4 straight up at home. Best mark in the league when it comes to home games. They the best home record in the league. I said it was Memphis, but it's actually the Nuggets who have the best home record in the league, 26-4. And can you believe they actually lost to teams that like below 500, like 3 of them in this spot? That's crazy. So versus the Western Conference, they're 28-11. Probably one of the biggest discrepancies out of anybody playing against their own conference this year. Also, they are 19-10-1 against the spread at home. They're 21-17-1 against the spread versus the Western Conference. Now, when it comes down to their 59 games, they've went over in 33 of those games. And as I keep saying, people have to just respect where the Nuggets are coming from. This team did not have to trade for anything, okay? Because they're that much better than the Western Conference right now. So really, everybody's still just chasing the Nuggets, and this is a good game for the Mavs to prove if they're going to really be able to make any moves come May, June, and come late April, May, and June. Because at this point right now, they're messing with their chemistry, and I don't know. You know what I mean? They're going to really have to step it up. But from what you hear from Dallas fans, they're already putting together the parade route. I don't think that Dallas is a championship tier team yet, but they can get there. You know what I mean? They can build around Kyrie and Luka, but I think what happens during the summer is that they figure out a way to get assets for Kyrie. They're not going to just let Kyrie walk down the street because we all know he's probably going to the Lakers, and they're going to try to fleece the Lakers for some picks. I keep it real. They're going to try to fleece them for some picks at the end of the day when it comes down to that situation. So let's go ahead and we're going to take another quick commercial break, and when I get back, we're going to get into talking tickets, and we got some really good ones. I got the PrimeTime PK6 today. I got the DogDay PK4, both college basketball, and then I got the NBA Super High Five. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, here we are. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Talking tickets. My favorite subject, your favorite subject. Let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, up first, let's go ahead and jump into our CBB PrimeTime PK6 today. We got Xavier. As I said before, I love Xavier today. I think that Xavier, it does show probably one of the better bets today for bettors, in my opinion. +6 to Xavier is a strong bet. Also, DeQuinn. Today we have them 6.5. They're going against Philly rival St. Joe's today. I think that this one winds up being DeQuinn. Big time for DeQuinn today in this game. I think that they can win this game by 8 or better. That's why I have them here. We have IUPUI, who's playing Oakland today. They're now at a plus 15.5. I know that they're absolutely dreadful. They're only 4-23, but this is what happens when you think that a 4-23 team is just supposed to lay down, and they're not going to lay down. So that's how I feel today going against Oakland. It's the horizon. Anything can happen. Damn, they can mess around and win the game if they really want to. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But I do like the IUPUI with the plus 15.5. And if you guys don't know what that school means, it's the Indiana University, Purdue University, Indiana University on the Purdue University Institute. That's what it is. They're just literally just two rival schools as one college. Then we have Bradley tonight playing against Missouri State in their Missouri Valley Conference showdown. Bradley's been under the radar all year, playing great basketball. They should be a team that you do circle as a possible winner of that tournament. You're getting good value on that one as well, too. Then you have Kentucky, who's coming in here as an unlikely dog tonight against a kind of inconsistent Mississippi State team. But we know that they're going to play on a top-notch level because guess who's in town? Them Wildcats of Kentucky. So they're going to show up tonight. But I feel like Kentucky gets us a nice win in this spot. And then we finish up with the UC Santa Barbara, who is literally the favorite to win the Big West right now. They've already won 20 games for like maybe I think probably the fifth time in the last decade or so. UC Santa Barbara, if they do make the tournament, they are a team that does loom a big danger to anybody that they play in the first few rounds as well, too. So you guys be on the lookout for UC Santa Barbara in their tournament. And if you can get some early action on them to win their tournament, I would go ahead and do that as well, too. So there it is, CBB PrimeTime PK6, 53-1. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. Okay, we got the DogDay PK4, 40-1. We got Tulsa money line plus 160. They're playing South Florida tonight at home. Everything kind of makes sense. Even though Tulsa does not have the greatest record, you still got to remember who they're playing against. South Florida might be a little good this year, but they still got their road woes, and they are the type of team that can drop this type of game to a team as bad as Tulsa. So I love Tulsa in this spot, plus 160. I think that they take care of their business in one of their last home games of the season. You know, the seniors want to look good on the way out, man. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking about as well, too. Then you have Bama pretty much in the game of the day with Tennessee, the number 1 team in the nation, going against the number 10 team in the nation. I know everybody said, then why didn't you talk about them earlier? Well, I just felt that the Marquette Xavier game has a little bit more excitement to it because, you know, they're playing in it's a tougher conference at this point in time, and that's a real critical game moving forward to their tournament. Bama is literally locked in as the number 1 seed in the SEC, but this is a good measure game for them to see exactly how they really stack up against the best teams in the SEC right now, because they have had a little bit of a cakewalk playing against the bottom of the SEC the last few games. So this is a good game for Bama to work some things out and see exactly how good they are at this point, and are they deserving of the number 1 ranking in the nation? We'll see. But I'll take the plus 135 on Bama. Then we have Northwestern at home with the money line. Northwestern has been such a tricky team when they've been at home. They ain't been great on the road, but they've been really good at home. So, you know, Indiana is a tough game tonight. Both teams have the same amount of losses as well, too. Game is very critical moving forward, but I think Indiana is already a cinch for the NCAA tournament. Northwestern has to do a little bit more, in my opinion, because Northwestern, we all know, doesn't play anybody in the non-conference. So they need as many wins as they can get before they get to the tournament this year, because they are still a team that's on the bubble right now. They look more NIT than they do NCAA, but we know that with good wins over teams like Indiana and over Indiana here late in the year, that boosts up their resume a little bit. And then you got Washington playing in a game tonight against arch rival Oregon. I think Washington, at home. They pose a very big threat. They're 13-13 on the season. They kind of play UCLA a little tough there in the first half. I feel like if they can be motivated like they were in that UCLA game before everything fell apart, they got a really big shot at beating an Oregon team that's not the same Oregon team that we've grown accustomed to over the last few seasons. I think Washington has a big shot here in the only Pac-12 game of the night, and they present our biggest number as well too at plus 195. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. Now we have ourselves the super high five tonight, the NBA, the under 231.5 Bulls Pacers. I talked about that prior. Our dog of the day with the Spurs money line plus 175. We also have the Cavs and 76ers with the over 216.5. Also going to circle the Jazz with the plus 10 tonight to give the Grizzlies some fits. And then I like the Nuggets to just go ahead and absolutely crush on this Mavericks team that's still confirming if Luka's going to play tonight or not, because they did play last night as well too. And Luka still does have the bad tailbone. And we're going to see if Kyrie steps it up big tonight. But I think the Nuggets don't care about any of that. And they're going to use all this, we're a brand new team and we're trying to win a championship, as motivation to literally go ahead and send a message to the Mavs. I like the Nuggets big tonight. If you want to play an alternate line, why don't you play the 9 to see if they can beat them by 10 tonight? That's probably about plus 300 for you. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But that's our NBA super high five for tonight. And that is our bets for Talking Tickets. So I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in today. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking some more NFL news as it comes. We're also going to be talking some boxing tomorrow as well too. I'm going to give you guys an idea of where we're at in the saga between Keith Thurman and Errol Spence and Tank and Ryan Garcia, exactly where we're at when it comes to when these fights are going to be booked. Also talk a bit about what happened last weekend as well too. So you guys make sure to keep tuning in and everything like that, because I got nothing but great stuff for you moving forward. So tomorrow should be another great day. Also, I'll be on the Mike Abadir show on Radio Voice America. That's going to be at 4 p.m. Pacific time as well. And you guys just make sure to tune in for both tomorrow, and they should both be some really good shows. So there it is. There it is. Once again, it's your boy, the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and this is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles Live. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving, and I'll be back to you guys tomorrow. But right now, I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.